Season 3, the absolutely worst thing that has happened to Diablo 4 yet. Because it always can get worse. But maybe, just maybe, there is this itty bitty small chance that it may get a little bit better. Let's find out.
We got some potentially pretty cool news here about Uber Uniques for Diablo 4. Now, this right here is the community manager, Pez Radar, doing a Twitter post that I found saying, just a friendly PSA from the Diablo 4 team here. Hang on to your unused Uber Uniques. The team has some plans for something in the future patch, which we will share soon, but figured this heads up was warranted for those that may have some Uber Uniques.
Okay, this does not seem good. You know what this sentence says? Diablo 4 keeps doing one of the worst things ever possible. Path of Exile doesn't do it. Last Epoch doesn't do it. Almost no game that's actually good does this. But Diablo 4, Diablo and Blizzard in general constantly do this. And the giant red flag with this sentence is the fact that they're not going to add Uber Uniques, new ones, which would be awesome. But they're gonna change already existing Uber Uniques that people don't use into something that they would like to use, potentially. And that is just flat out the wrong approach. This is what Blizzard does. And the best example of this is the new unique Sorcerer's Helmet. I think it's a unique one, right? Which is essentially just a full Meteor build in one item. It is literally a singular item designed to give you a full build just from equipping it. There is no thought, there is no creativity. You're just being treated like a absolutely, autistic child, essentially, in the form that they don't want you to think. They just want you to equip it and go zoom zoom. This is not how good games do things. Good games implement items that are interesting, fun, they change stuff how it works, and then people can think, create stuff for themselves, and the outcome can be something awesome or something medium or whatever. And over time they just keep adding things, and at some point you have so many ways to mix stuff up that new builds can just pop up overnight and they could be absolutely amazing and cool and whatnot. But Blizzard doesn't do that. Blizzard sadly doesn't do that. If they add something into the game and it's not an oh my god 10 out of 10 banger situation, they rework it so it is. They don't add new stuff. They try to make old stuff good. And by good it's like, oh, we're gonna make this item that's specifically designed to do this thing for this already existing build. And that's boring. That's boring. People want creativity. People are not as stupid as Blizzard thinks they are.
Aren't utilizing. Well, if you actually go to the forum post, they use somewhat different words. It's pretty much the same announcement, but slightly different, where he says the design team has upcoming plans for those who have numerous Uber Unique. So there might be a little bit of speculation we can do off of the change of wording there. Numerous Uber Unique. So maybe it's like you have 1, 2, 3 Shakos. You crunch them all together and you +1, +2, +3 above the normal blacks.
Yeah, sounds like something that Diablo 4 devs would steal from Raid Shadow Legends. True. Raid Shadow Legends has that exact mechanic for multiple legendary, mythical, and whatnot champions. So, I mean, it's not a bad mechanic, but it's a far cry from what people would honestly want, right?
Smith upgrades, I don't know. Either way, they're going out of their way to say that they're going to be sharing the plans for this and that this is for a future patch coming soon. So it doesn't sound like this is going to be in Season 4. If you remember right, Season 4 is supposed to be the big itemization changes, maybe crafting, who knows what's going into the Season 4. And they did actually share some of those revelations or some sneak.
Also, this is still bad. The fact that Blizzard is still this is what I was saying from Season 1, essentially, from the announcement of Season 1, that it's an absolute horror show, honestly. The fact that Blizzard just constantly keeps trying to sell things that should be in the base game, that should be just minor patches and changes to how the base game operates, as big seasonal changes and things to look forward to. No. Changing how stats work and changing the affixes and whatnot for items should not be a seasonal, the next season's big thing. It should be just straight up implemented into the game when it's ready.
peeks to some of us content creators, but we're all heavily NDA'd and can't really talk about it literally anyway. But what I can say is that Season 4, there will be itemization changes. Looks pretty cool from what I've seen so far, but the sneak peek stuff is going to be changed heavily anyway from what it is that we have seen, so I'm sure that any information I have would not be relevant by that time anyway. But if you're like me, you might not be farming the Uber Duriel at the moment because some people just don't like farming Uber Duriel. Now, I think this is a opportunity potentially for things like the Season 3 Gauntlet coming up, or even the Vaults, to maybe slide in rewards related to Uber Unique farming. As it currently stands, what you have to do in order to get Uber Uniques is you got to farm Living Steel, Varshan, you get the materials you need, you go, then you spawn the Uber Duriel, you do the Duriel over and over and over again. It's not the Uber Duriel that's a problem. I actually think Uber Duriel is a fun boss fight. I like the boss fight. It's not that difficult, but I think it's fun.
Yeah, this is the thing that, again, I have been saying for forever now. Blizzard in general, not just Diablo 3, they don't correct their mistakes. They overcorrect. The same way the pet is super weak, now it's super OP. You know, if an item that they want to be big is underwhelming, they literally overbuff it to the fact that it's the only item you need to equip on your character, and there you go, you can just solo everything in the game now. This is what Blizzard does. It was tedious to farm previously, the living steals and all of those things to get to Uber Duriel. That was a problem that people had because it was slightly too tedious. But then they made it that it's literally just, you know, there's no challenge to it whatsoever. It is just far too easy to actually farm Uber Duriel nowadays. And that's pretty much the problem now. Again, overcorrection from Blizzard. From this is a little bit tedious to, oh, everything's now absolutely 100% free, and, you know, it just feels like a waste of time doing it because there's absolutely no challenge to it whatsoever. You're just blindly, moronically going through the motions of acquiring it, and then you need to kill Uber Duriel. Doesn't feel rewarding. It just, at this point, the gateway to actually killing Uber Duriel is just a chore, nothing else. It feels like a giant chore to people.
The problem is, and I think this guy actually nails it sort of on the head here, is that it takes forever. I'm going to pull up this post here because I thought he worded it very well, is that, here it is. He says, it's not about the time it takes, it's the fact that it's the highest of in-game goals is gated behind the lowest, most trivial content. I think that's a pretty way of putting it, which is basically the Uber Uniques are gated behind. You just spam the Hell Tides over and over and over again, and then you get a chance to do that.
Yeah, and the Hell Tides are badly made. Season 2, actually, you know what made Season 2 great? I talked about this. I never heard anyone else mention it. But there was that thing that dealt damage whenever you pressed the space bar or did literally any action. And that range was huge. So what would happen in Season 2 was, you know, it was the thing that Vampiric Pulver that dealt damage based on your max HP or something like that. I don't remember how it worked exactly any longer. But yeah, that thing used to aggro mob packs that were a screen away from you. So it was actually pretty decent to kill things out in the world, because you would be killing this mob right here, and around the time you're actually done killing that mob, a cluster of mobs would come in from this side, maybe from another side or something like that. That was pretty decent. A complete accident, by the way, again, but decent. Because the Hell Tides are so stupid and boring. You're literally just running around, searching for a small cluster of enemies to just blow up in a millisecond. Is that interesting? I don't know about that, Chief. I don't think that's interesting.
The Uber Hell Tide. So I think there's probably an opportunity, since we have the Gauntlet coming here more mid-season or in a couple weeks. They haven't really announced the timeline on the yet, but maybe the Gauntlet, as you place higher and higher on the leaderboards, for instance, increases your percentage chance to receive an Uber Unique from normal mobs. Maybe as you, there's going to be COs saying kind of where you're at on it, is as you climb the COs higher and higher, maybe it increases, just as one example, the percentage that the normal mobs might drive an Uber Unique. I think there's opportunities to maybe slide these Uber Uniques into other places in the game to give people more chase goals and still make them incentivized and rare and meaning something.
Also, dude, man, this is also a problem that Diablo 4 didn't have. Diablo 2 doesn't have. You know why Diablo 2 doesn't have a problem like this? One of the big problems with Uber Duriel is that, well, he drops just the maximum level of items. Essentially, if you are down to the level in this game where you can farm Uber Duriel or do him even, all the other drops are completely irrelevant in this game. Completely 100% almost irrelevant. Because you only care about item level 925 now. And that's literally only Uber Duriel drops. So all of the items are irrelevant. Diablo 2 was actually so good for this because depending on the zone, the level of the zone you were in, you had a table range of what it can drop from this to this. Diablo 2 didn't have an item level per se. Well, it had item quality tiers, which is technically the same as Diablo 4 has, but since it only depended on the zone, even some of the lowest zones could drop potentially the highest level of items because the zone was that level. But in Diablo 4, it doesn't work like that. Every item is literally tied to the item level. If you're playing this game, you have probably figured it out already. Probably on Season 2 already, you figured this out, or even faster maybe. The fact that it's pointless to look at an item upgrade if it has a lower item level than what you're currently wearing. Because the lower item level items will never just match the base stat line of the items that you are currently wearing. And that is the stupidest thing ever.
But still give you a way to not just farm hell tides over and over and over again, for instance. In other cool news, it looks like the pet, after the buffs and with people maxing it out, and of course we're talking about Barbarian again, but it looks like the pet is actually really starting to do something. This here is by Rob. This is pre-patch video of the pet with Firefly. It looks like people are figuring out Firefly and maybe some Tempest actually does some damage at the higher levels. He's able to take out Uber Duriel. Here is him against Uber Lilith. So I'll put a link down below the Rob's video if you want to check out and take a peek at the setup for this as he does so fully explain what's going on.
Wait, the Fireflies cast this much? I also have Firefly.
On and show you the full fight on that as well over at Rob's channel. But this is pretty interesting. Looks like the pet itself is actually starting to ramp and do damage. And then we also just had the patch that went live here just a few hours ago. As a matter of fact, they had the patch that went live, and I'm going to pull it up for you. Here it is, and in this patch, just 3 hours ago, we've covered this one prior, but basically you can see here that there was damage increases, including Firefly and Tempest, which are basically the ones that people are currently using, so they are ramping the pet even more. So this is cool to see that the pet is actually useful once you're fully maxed out, basically. And you can see more posts on Reddit here talking about the same thing. Celestial Companion hit for 1 billion damage on all classes, and they're talking about Robs.
Told you. I told you this is gonna happen. From absolutely useless to blatantly the most overpowered thing in the game. Easy. It's what Blizzard have done for, I don't know, the past at least 10 years.
2.8 trillion damage. It always seems to be Rob that's breaking the game in some way or another. But this is an interesting point. As a Necromancer player, I can't express how much it irks me that every class now has his pet, yet Necro minions and Druid companions sit at C/D tier. Absolute joke. This is hilarious. They are bugged and can hit players not flagged for PvP in PvP zone. So it seems
classic Blizzard W.
Like the pet goes from at the beginning being completely worthless and everyone hates it to completely overpowered and one-shots literally everything in the game. There's, the balance of life and death continues here. Speaking of life and death, Zizzarin's Path of Exile Gauntlet is starting here tomorrow, and I am planning to play this. This is effectively a giga ramped, maxed out version of Path of Exile that's a once in a year, twice in the year at the most type of event that they do, which is borderline impossible to fully complete. They say they expect 0 people to fully complete this gauntlet.
I don't remember, but didn't a lot of people complete it last time? No, this is severely harder than the average PoE, but there's gonna be people who definitely complete it. I mean, the harder you make the challenge for the PoE players, the more some of them want to complete it.
Gauntlet. So if you want to just see me suffer over and over and over again, you can catch me on tomorrow's live stream for the Gauntlet. Today, as a matter of fact, you might notice the piano's gone. It's because I've been moving, and I'm moving today, as a matter of fact. I was up to 1 a.m. moving some stuff, and it's starting to empty out in here a little bit more. You're going to see all these things slowly disappear because the new office is getting set up. And on one of my newest live streams, I'll show you guys the office once it's all fully set up. We got to get through the Gauntlet first, and then I'm hoping to be fully set up and ready by the 21st, which is when Last Epoch comes out. So my plan is to go into the Gauntlet, and then
Last Epoch, finally. The waterlog, boys. I have been waiting for that so long. We're gonna see what happens. The waterlog's probably gonna be fun.
I'm gonna start learning
Sacrifice waterlog. That's what we're gonna be doing.
Last Epoch and playing Last Epoch.
Because I still haven't finished the self-cast sacrifice build. Need to do that.
You'll probably see some guides, videos, tips, and tricks coming out on the channel as well. So I'm kind of curious how many of you guys are planning to play Last Epoch. But speaking about Last Epoch, actually on February 19th here on Tavern Talk, the podcast that we do hosted on the twitch.tv/StartTheMicrotransaction, my Twitch page here. We did Zizerins on the 30th. We got Kriparian coming on the 13th. And then we have Mike here, which is the Last Epoch dev that was with us last time on the 19th.
Wow, that's pretty decent lineup. But anyway, I think that's it. Anyway, that was our boy, Microtransactions, the Skittler. Anyway, this is Quizzer Sid saying thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.